Hi, fourth grade. Welcome back to math. Today's lesson, we are going to be working on 18.5 order decimals. If you have not already done so, please take out your math journal, get it labeled with today's title, and open up your textbook to page 480 and 481. As a reminder, at any time in the video, you can pause to get caught up, so don't let me get ahead of you. Make sure you pause if you are not caught up yet. So today's lesson is going to be an extension of what we did yesterday. Yesterday in 18.4, we worked on comparing decimals. You are going to see a lot of similarities in today's lesson. We're going to start off with very similar directions from yesterday, so you do not need to copy these new notes down into your journal because you should have them from yesterday. If you did not copy them down, it might be helpful for you to do so you can pause the video and do that now. Otherwise, we're just going to add on one new note. So to order decimals, we have to start by comparing them, which is exactly what we worked on yesterday. Now, you will not have to compare using decimal pictures. You won't have to compare using number lines. You can just compare using place value today. We are going to review number lines a little bit, but I don't expect you to do that for each one. So today, the new note that you need to write down is this step 4. This is different than yesterday. So when we are comparing decimals, we have to start with the greatest place value, compare both digits in the same place, and we continue in that pattern until we find two digits that are not equal to each other. Once we find those digits that are not equal to each other, we can compare to decide which is greater and which is less. This is where our lesson comes in today at step 4. Once we've decided which of the decimals is greater and which is least, super simple. We just have to put them in order. Sometimes our directions will ask us to do this from greatest to least, and other times it will ask us to do this from least to greatest. So let's take a look at our practice today. So this is a chart coming from your textbook. Feel free to look back at this. Like I mentioned yesterday, when we're comparing by place value, we want to stack them. I want you to notice how each decimal, do you see how it's lined up? The ones are with the ones, the tenths are with the tenths, the hundredths are with the hundredths. That's going to be really important today to help you keep track of which is greater, which is least when comparing by place value. So I just wanted to point that out to you. But we are going to go ahead and begin our practice together. So at some point, there might be a number line for you to use. If you prefer not to use this, you are more than welcome to not, but I do want to show you how, because if you pick up on it, it actually is the quickest way to compare decimals when you have a number line provided in front of you. So we're going to solve numbers 1 and 2 together using the number line. Then we will do the other problems without the number line. So number 1, and you can just look and tap your finger on your number line in your textbook. You don't need to draw this out in your journal, but number 1, we have the following decimals. We have 1 and 11 hundredths. We have 1 and 2 tenths. We have 1 and 100th, and we have 1 and 1/10. So using the number line, I'm going to make dots on my number line to represent these numbers. So let's start with 1 and 11 hundredths. So I see that 1 and 11 hundredths starts with a 1 in the tenths place. So I know that's going to be really close to my 1.1 on my number line. This extra 1 in the hundredths place tells me that it is 1 mark over. So there's 1 and 11 hundredths. Then I have 1 and 2 tenths. So I'm going to use a blue dot for that. I'm going to pick up a different color so you can see. I'm going to do 1 and 2 tenths in a green dot. So that's really easy. That's right on the number line right there, 1 and 2 tenths. Let's see, I'll pick up a red pen for my next one, 1 and 100th. So I have a 0 in the tens place, so I know that I should have a 0 in the tens place on the number line as well. 1.01 will be just one tick mark over for that point 0.01. Okay, then I need one more color. I'm going to choose purple this time. 1.1, easy peasy. That is right on the number line as well. Ooh, those are super, super close together. Okay, so now that we see them on the number line, we can very easily see them from least to greatest because that's how a number line is set up. So I can now rewrite my numbers in order of how they occur. So I have, I'm going to have to resize this, my friends. I'm so sorry. One moment. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm running out of a little bit of space here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to rewrite my new answer now from ordered from least to greatest. I'm going to look at the number line. I see my smallest one would be first. That's the one with the red dot. I see over here it's 1 and 100th. Then my next one would be the purple dot. That was for 1.1 or 1 and 1/10. Then the blue dot, which is 1 and 1100ths. And then last is the green dot, which is 1.2 or 1 and 2/10. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with number 2. I'm going to go ahead and erase the dots on the number line so that I can go ahead and start the next one. Now, obviously, you cannot draw in your textbook, so you can, if you want to use pencil very, very lightly and then go back and erase after, that's okay with me. Just please make sure you're not writing in your textbook with pen, okay? All right, so number 2 here, I have 1 and 3200ths, 1 and 2300ths, 1 and 3/10ths, and 1 and 2/10ths. Okay, so we're going to, just like before, order them on the number line. I'm going to use a different color for each one. I can do that on here because I have a smart notebook. You obviously can't do that in your textbook though, but you can do that on your assignment today if you'd like. So I have 1 and 3200ths. I see a 3 in the tens place, so that tells me I need to find that 1.3 here. I have 200ths, so I'm going to be 2 tick marks past that 1.3. So that'll be right here. 1.32. I'm drawing a blue dot over that to show that I did it with blue. Okay, next I'm going to use green to show 1.23 or 1 in 2300ths. I see a 2 in the tenths place, so I need to find that 2 on the number line. This 3 tells me that's 300ths, so it's going to be 3 more tick marks in. 1.23 or 1 in 2300ths will be right there. Okay, next, using my red for 1.3, that is easy peasy. It's right on the number line as 1.3, so I can put it right there. Last one will be 1.2, 2 in the tenths place. Super easy, that's right on the number line, 1.2. Now on the number line, I see they are very simply in order from least to greatest because that's how a number line works. So I'm going to rearrange these. From least to greatest. Again, that's what my directions tell me to. Make sure you check that out before you start ordering them. You might need to go from greatest to least sometimes too. So I see that my least is the purple dot, which we used for 1.2. My next least is the green dot, which was 1.23. My next least is the red dot, which is 1.3. or 1 and 3/10ths, and my greatest was 1 and 3200ths. Okay, now that I have shown you how to do it on a number line, we're going to now solve the next couple using place values. So I'm going to scroll down to give me a little bit more space. We're going to skip number 3. We're going to start working on number 4. Now, in your journals, you're going to want to make sure when you write these down, stack them on top of each other, just like this. So I'm going to start with the first one, 1.65. I'm going to write really nicely, really space it out, 1.56. I want you to notice I have my ones together, I have my tenths together, and my hundredths together. This will help me to really easily be able to compare and not get confused by the place value. Now, I see here that some of my digits are not the same. They don't have the same amount of digits. So like yesterday, that little key, that little star that I pulled out for you, same thing is going to apply today. You can add as many zeros as you want to the last digit behind a decimal point, and it doesn't change its value. So I'm going to add zeros behind there so that they all have the same amount of digits. Do you see that there? They all have 3 digits in the numbers. I did not change the value by adding on those zeros. Okay, so now we're going to do this using place value to compare. I'm going to start with the greatest place value, which is the 1. So I'm going to underline the 1's place in all of my digits. I'm still ordering from least to greatest. I see that all of them start with a 1 except for this one here. So that tells me this is going to be my greatest. So just to get it out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and write it all the way at the end, 2.0. And I'm going to cross it off because I've dealt with it now. Okay, the rest of them are all equal still, so we need to move on to the tenths. Underline the tenths place. I see a 6, 5, and a 6. I know which one is the least now. Can you guess? That's right, it's this one. 1.56 is the least because there is a 5 in the tenths place that is smaller than a 6 in the tenths place. So 1.56 is going to be the least, so I'm going to write that first. Okay, now I see both of these still have a 6 in the tens place, so I need to move to the last digit, which is the thousandths. I see a 5 in the thousandths place versus a 0. I know that 0 is less than 5, so 1.60 is going to be the next smallest, so I'm going to cross that off, write that here, which means the one that should go in between 1.6 and 2.0 should be 1.65. Now I have them in order from least to greatest using place value. We're going to solve one more on this page. Number 5. I'm going to get them written here and then scroll down. Number 5, we have, remember we're going to stack them, 1.15, stack them by place value, 1.1, 1.51, and 1.3. Sorry, give me just a moment as I try to extend my page. There we go. And 1.3 was the last one. Okay, so I have them all nicely lined up, but I see that not all of them are coming out to the same place. So I need to back that up. Ooh. Sorry, friends. Thank you for being patient with me. Okay, so I need to back that up. Oh my goodness. I am not sure where my page just went. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so I don't have all of my digits coming out to be the same. So I'm going to add zeros to the ones here and here that are not 3 digits long. I want each of them to be the same amount of digits, so I can add 1 0 onto the end of it so that they are all the same and I'm able to compare them nicely. So let's take a look at these. I'm going to bring this down here to make it a little bit cleaner for us, maybe. I am all kinds of messed up over here. Here we go. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys being patient with me as I sort this out. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and compare. We're going to start with the greatest place value, which is the ones place. Okay, unfortunately, I see every digit in the ones place is exactly the same, so we need to go to the next place value, which would be the tenths. I see here we are starting to find some differences. So I see that the smallest of them is a 1 in the tenths place, but we have two of them. So we need to work here first to compare the next digit so we can see which one is the smallest. So we're going to ignore the bottom two for now. Let's take a look at the next places, which would be the hundredths just for these top two numbers. So I see a 5 and I see a 0. I know 0 is less than 5, so that means that 1.1 is our smallest. So I'm going to go ahead and write that over here. 1.1 is our smallest. I'm going to cross it off from my list. The next smallest would be 1.15. Cross it off from my list. Okay, now really easy. I can come back to the bottom two. I see a 5 in the tenths place and a 3 in the tenths place. So right off the bat, we can tell that 3 is smaller than 5. So that means that 1.3 is smaller. And so that means that I can assume that 1.51 is the greatest. Okay. All right. So that is comparing by place value. We're going to practice a couple more. So you also are going to see some money amounts today. Please don't let that worry you. That there's no difference between comparing dollar amounts versus comparing just regular decimals. The only difference is that there's a dollar sign. So I'm going to do number 7 with you, and then we'll move on to the rest of the assignments. So number 7, we're going to do this the same. We just have to make sure we write those dollar signs down. So I'm going to copy these down, 1.41 or $1.41, lining each digit up by its place value. I have 0.14 or 14 cents. I have $1.14 or 1 and 14 hundredths. And then I have 1 and 40 hundredths or $1.40. Okay, nicely lined up. We're going to start by comparing the digit in the first greatest place value. We're going to ignore the dollar sign. Dollar signs do not have value. It just tells you that that is a dollar amount. So ignore that. Go ahead and underline your ones. I see right off the bat which one is the least. But if I look at my directions, it says order the decimals from greatest to least. So I need the greatest one to be first and the least to be last. So I'm going to take this one that's least with the 0 in the ones place. I'm going to write it in the last place because I need it greatest to least this time, 0.14. All right, so now looking, every other one has a 1 in the ones place, so we need to look at the tenths. Looking at the tenths, I see a 4, a 1, and a 4. Again, these two that have 4s, I can't compare those yet. I need to look at the next digit, but I do see that 1.14 or $1.14 would be the next least, so I'm going to write that before our other one we have over here, because I can tell that that is going to be the next smallest. So remember, this time we're going greatest to least. Okay. Looking now, we need to look to the hundredths. So I'm going to underline the hundredths in both of those numbers that we have left. I see that the first one has a 1 in the hundredths place. This one has a 0 in the hundredths place. So I know that 0 is smaller, 1 is bigger. So this is going to be our greatest, $1.41. So I'm going to write that in the first spot because it's the greatest. After that, I will write $1.40 because it's the next greatest. And then we are finished with that. So the dollar sign does not change anything about your process. It just means you need to make sure you add a dollar sign on there. All right, so now is some time for you to practice and get some feedback from me on the answers. So I would like you to solve numbers 10, 11, and 12. I want you to write those down, pause the video and solve them. And then when you have them solved, I'm going to reveal the answers for you. We're going to write these from greatest to least. The directions say order from greatest to least. I'd like you to order using place value. When you write them down, make sure you stack them up like this by their place value. Make sure that all of your digits are the same length. If not, you have something that you need to add in there, okay? Go ahead and pause the video when you're ready. Unpause and I will reveal the answers. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully at this point you have solved these problems. So now I'm going to reveal the answers. So number 10, ordering these numbers from greatest to least, you should have found the greatest is 1.4 or 1 4/10. The next greatest is 1.04 or 1 400. Then we have 0.96 or 96 hundredths. And last, but unfortunately the least, is 0.9 or 9/10. Number 11, you should have found the greatest to be 5.55 or 5 55 hundredths. Next greatest is 5.5 or 5 5/10. Next greatest is 5.15 or 5 15 hundredths. And this last one, I'm so sorry, I have a typo, should be 5.05. 5.05 or 5 5 hundredths. And last one, comparing dollar amounts, you should have found the greatest to be $1 or 1.00, the next greatest to be 95 cents or 0.95, and the last greatest to be 80 cents or 0.80. Make sure that you have those dollar signs out in front. That does matter. It's like a label. All right, so if you want to keep practicing more, you can go ahead and continue that. If you feel ready to start your assignment, you may do that as well. If you'd like to practice more, pause the video, write these out, solve them from greatest to least. I'll reveal the answers. If you do not want to practice anymore, go ahead and start working on 18.5 PW. You may want to use a separate piece of paper to line up each digit in each decimal by place value like we've been doing. There's not enough room on your work page for that. But if you feel like you need a little bit more practice with a teacher, checking your work, making sure you're getting it right, go ahead back to this, pause the video, and I'll reveal the answers. Okay, so if you're still working with me, it's time to reveal the answers to 13, 14, and 15 in your textbook. Number 13. First, from greatest to least is 3.97 or 3 97 hundredths. Then is 3.8 or 3 8/10. Then is 3.61 and then 3.06. Number 14, $3.51, then $3.15, then $1.53, then $1.35. Last, number 15 is 7 2/10 or 7.2, 7 11 hundredths or 7.11, then 6 93 hundredths or 6.93, and finally 6.25 or 6 25 hundredths. All right, class, great work today. Go ahead and start working on 18.5 PW. You're solving all of them today, and I will see you back tomorrow. We will be reviewing chapter 18 together, getting ready to take a test. See you soon.